What's up, Juice? Future JP in the house. And so the communication is all messed up. I have like this one foundation live in West LA. The daughter and kids all went to college. The father worked very hard, put them to college, and I can't even tell you this story. It's really messed up what happened. But anyway, the daughter ended up marrying some brother from someplace, maybe Caribbeans or something, maybe because she thought, I don't know what she thought, but I'm thinking that, I think she told me she thought he was a good guy or something like that. But then when she started telling him her experience living in, because when you living on the west side in Los Angeles, living in white communities, or and you live in the communities where they don't tell you don't do this and don't do that, because when you living in those type of communities, you're free to express yourself. They tell you to get out and go do things. I've been in, like when I was in Venice, I had a lot of brothers tell me to do things. Some big OGs telling me to do this. Some of the older ones, hey, go do this. And I'm sure they could have came over and asked me to do drugs for them and stuff. But the way I carried myself, and like I said, maybe it was just the language that I knew that I had when I was in a white neighborhood, that they just didn't accept me in their circle, or they could have kept me out of the circle. Which one it was, I don't know. But the whole thing is, in California, if you are black and if you're not crowded with all that black community, white people this, white people that, and you can't do this, and you don't have that, and you go out and you actually meet white people, a lot of them are really good, especially the rich ones. I mean, you might go to Simi Valley and run into messed up cops and stuff like that, but it's according, I guess maybe it's the vibes or whatever, because I used to walk through Beverly Hills, walk up and down Bel Air all the time, Beverly Hills, whatever. And by myself, I've gotten stopped only one time because I made a left turn when I wasn't supposed to. That's what the cops said, but I thought I saw the line and everything. But he stopped and we started the conversation. I'm like, no, we're there, but he got an emergency phone call. We right in Beverly Hills. He got married, said, okay, bye, and just let me go, and he went on and did something else. So all I'm saying is that she had a good life, and she knew a lot of rich people, a lot of influential people. I mean, dang, man. Because of the people that she knew, I'm surprised she didn't even marry a white person. You know what I'm saying? But she went and married a guy from the Caribbean who evidently didn't have that kind of a outlet, and everything that he told her, he said was a lie. Then he started punching on her and this, and eventually she left and she was all messed up, And when I heard about it, I was like, wow, And it's like in those times, you might dang, you probably would have been enough marrying a white guy, but then you just can't say a white guy because white people that are poor and the ones that are rich and the ones that have experience and the ones that don't. It's all screwed up. It's no different. That's so much different from the black neighborhoods, because you do have very smart black people who can make a lot of money that are in the neighborhood. Some get out and do, some don't. Some mismanage their money and some don't, and some do, it's all really crazy and stuff. And it's really sad. So when you talking to people, when you want to get in a relationship, your experiences should be very, very common, very close. Because if you got two different experiences and stuff with people like that, it's like if you be with a black woman and she's traveled to Africa. Like I met a friend. He's from Egypt, and he said he looks Jewish and stuff, light skin and everything. But he always talk about his afro, how thick his lips are and stuff, and say everybody else in his family is black, and he's from the original. He said he's from the original black Africans during the Egyptian times, and I said, well, were they black? And he started laughing at me and said, yeah, they're all black. The ancient Egyptians, they're all black. He said now they're talking all this crap and stuff, and he's talking about how they speak, the Arabic language, but that's not their original language and stuff like that. And that they don't, if you call an original black person in Egypt Arab, it's an insult and stuff. And he was telling all kinds of stuff. I was like, wow, so. And, he sent me a lot of links, so I'm going to have to read up on it and stuff like that. But but it's like a black woman that went there and traveled, to Africa, went to Asia and traveled, went to Papua New Guinea, in different places, and then she comes back, and and you wouldn't know what she knows. What does a educated black woman who's been around the world, experienced, have a lot of knowledge, can have all kinds of business, can be rich and everything, supposed to look like? She's real cool and stuff. She ain't gonna dress no different than, probably, a normal hood rat in the hood. That people call hood rats in the hood. They dress up and dress nice and stuff. They just got a bad reputation and stuff. And then she walked down the street, and some brother might come up and he might think he all cool and uneducated and ain't traveled out the hood. Furthest out the hood he probably been was, maybe to I'm just being funny, okay? Maybe to a new what is that thing called, Walmart, that was built in some white neighborhood and stuff. So they all just took a trip over there, because maybe the prices in the white neighborhood are probably cheaper than the ones that's in a black neighborhood. Even if there is a Walmart in a black neighborhood, which I doubt, but I don't know. But anyway, and that's the furthest they've been. So he'll go and he'll talk to her, and then she'll start talking about, yeah, I've been to Africa, and I didn't. What the hell you going to Africa for? Ain't nothing over there for you. And and she probably want to tell him, hey, you should go over there, because the brothers in Africa, they cool, and they'll tell you what to do, and they'll help you. You can even go to school over there, get educated, come back with it in, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, 10 years, whatever. You come back with a PhD and this and that and that. And I ain't going to Africa. I want to go over there with them for, And so, these women, and he could be a very handsome guy, and he could be very strong and, muscular, nice deep voice, and she might be in love with him because of his looks only, but because of his communication, his education skill, level. And what I mean by education is not formal education, just reading everything you can is so low. So she like, okay, well, I'm gonna just he does look good, and maybe I can just be with him, and I can do this and I can do that, and think she's gonna change, and they end up getting married or dating, having kids and everything, and then his ignorance is just so gone. It's just so vast, and deep that she can't help him, and so then the next thing they breaking up, and now she got these kids, and then. And hopefully she will be smart and go back to a neighborhood where she can raise her children, and even if she find a man or not, but raise her children in a community that's helpful, But maybe because of all the crap he put in her head, while they were going together, she'll stay in the hood. Then she got to meet these other black women that probably are not helping her are not helping her for her best interest, and then they're not sharing, so that they can get knowledge from her and things like that. And then she might fall in some mental abyss, and probably won't even wake up till she turned 40, 50 years old. Like, oh my God, wait a minute, what was I thinking about? All I had to do is just drive 10 miles up the street. Now I could have raised my kids in a better neighborhood, and this and that, And so, the whole thing is that a lot of these women, that we are not because I don't complain about black women, but a lot of women that these guys are complaining about are I don't know. You just got to sit down and you got to talk to them. Well, I don't want to talk to the black women. Okay, well, who are you going to talk to? Because a lot of you don't have enough money to go traveling to another country just for sex. And if you do, that's cool too. But I think that's ridiculous. Because instead of calling to you traveling over there, let's bring them over here or whatever. I don't know. I'm joking. But, a lot of these women just get caught up. Now, I'm talking about just the ones that are educated and stuff like that. But then you got some educated women who live in the hood, always been in the hood, went to school, and they just straight hood. And they're just strong like that, because maybe they just whipped up on the father so bad, so much that, she like, well, I'm just going to do what I want to do. And it's okay for her to have that attitude. And if you talk to her and she don't want to talk to you, fine. I get mail, people sometimes saying, hey, I don't want to see you no more. And I'm like, okay, I'll ask why, but it's all cool, let them, people, things change. And that's another thing about marriage too, which is really, really, really um, important. Is when you marry someone, you might marry them in one particular situation when they're in one situation. Like maybe they're divorced, and a woman might be divorced, and she might have some kids and stuff, and then you meet her, and then y'all hit it off. But then all of a sudden, a big opportunity comes with her where she might get a good job or be able to start her own business and stuff. And then as things start changing and money's coming in, her life is going through a change, But yours isn't, because you're still doing the same thing, which is could be a good thing. But her life is changing for the better. She's able to bring more money for her kids and everything, and then she's meeting different men who have more experience than you, who might be more understanding, might be more handsome, might have much more money, give her much more information. And then if she's smart and normal, she'll just start sucking that stuff in, and it'll just open her eyes, and her eyes bigger, give her more experiences, more understanding about a lot of things that's going on. And then one day she might come to you and say, you know what, I'm sorry, but, I have to move on. And you're like, oh, why, you're my woman, and blah, 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 and we got married, and da, 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 and it's almost really makes no sense about it, even with marriage, because, well, the whole thing, that's not that it makes any sense with marriage, but a lot of people just get married too soon. But, if my wife decided to, she wanted to divorce me because she found somebody else better, even if it's a Japanese man, he's a really good guy, he's real good with my kids, and we're good with her, and she just wanted to be with him because he can explain things, to talk to her in Japanese. Or if another black guy come along and she wanted to be with him, I'll just say fine, bye, I just want to see my kids and stuff. But I won't bother her. That's what happened in my first marriage, She went divorced, I'm like, fine, I went to visit my kids and stuff. She was there with her boyfriend, fine. I didn't care, because she found something better that expanded her knowledge and whatever. And it was a brother, I didn't care, because I have the same opportunity to expand and stuff like that. So, a lot of women, a lot of brothers and stuff, they really just don't take the opportunity to really try to expand. So if you marry a woman and all of a sudden she gets a computer, or she runs into someone, some other guy, what you doing, I'm married, whatever, and she might be on a bus or a train or whatever, and they just having a communication, he like, well, my company, they're hiring people kind of experience. She might turn and say, okay, here's a business card, call this number. Don't even call him. She's just saying, call this number, call this person, and tell them, this. I'll put in a word for you. And if some people put in words for people at their jobs and stuff, put in word and stuff at their jobs, and person to come in like me. I had a chance to work for, Northrop. My friend, everybody thought he was crazy and stuff, and I was staying with him. And his mother worked for Northrop, and I told her how I was working at this one electronics corporation, and I told her how I took the test, this 100 tests about color codes and with all this other stuff I forget, and I only got like 2 or 3 answers wrong. So she told somebody in her office that they were going to hire me immediately. All they had to do was fill out the application. I made a mistake on it, and I didn't ask for another. I just forget it, and I just blew it. I shouldn't even be here. I be rich, and and all this that I do and stuff. Had I been out there, I probably would have, got that job. Probably would have ended up marrying some white girl or something like that. Because a lot of sisters, they just wasn't feeling me because I was just too nice and stuff. I can't believe that too nice crap, But yeah, it was interesting. Then probably one of the white girls, especially over there in El Segundo at that time, man, shoot. The white girls, I'll tell you, the white girls, when they find them a good black man or somebody they love and he's halfway smart or whatever, because I don't know, they just know how to bring it out, the good in the black person, and they grab them, and next thing you know, they living together, all rich and doing well,